Uh, Good morning. Welcome to our Wednesday morning community mindfulness drop-in group. And I am Clara Irwin, and I'm filling in for Lindsay Bridges, who will be back next week. And what I wanted to offer today is a grounding practice and a leg meditation. And then just a very short share about practices that can help us during these challenging times. So, if we can, beginning by finding a comfortable position with your eyes either open or down closed, or downcast, either way, whichever is most comfortable for you. And beginning by welcoming yourself here, thanking yourself for making the time to take care of yourself in this way. Extending a welcome like you would to a dear friend that you are. And let's begin by noticing our feet on the floor, the toes and the soles of the feet, where they're making contact with the floor, points of pressure, points of contact. Noticing any sensations that are present in your feet, tingling, pulsing. And if you have on a sock or socks or shoes, noticing how they're touching the feet, creating perhaps a sense of warmth and support. And now moving up to your hands and noticing your palms of your hands and your fingers. Noticing if they're touching each other, those points of contact, the sensations present there. Perhaps they're touching the legs. Noticing if your hands are warm or cool, or maybe they're damp. And now, letting your attention shift to sounds. Perhaps sounds inside the body. Sounds inside the room. Sounds outside the room. Noticing the tendency to label sounds and seeing if it's possible to be with the bare experience of hearing sounds. And now shifting awareness again to thoughts, being aware of thoughts. Thoughts like clouds crossing the vast sky, just noticing like you would a cloud. And if you find yourself getting lost in the thoughts or caught in them, just noticing. When you notice that, notice the difference between being aware of our thoughts and being lost in them or caught up in them. And then very gently and firmly bringing your attention back to just observing thoughts passing through the mind. And now coming in closer to the body, noticing the whole body breathing from the bottom of our toes to the top of our head. Perhaps you notice your breath the easiest at the nostrils, the cool air as you breathe in, how the temperature changes as you breathe out. Perhaps it's at the chest wall, expanding on the in-breath, falling on the out-breath. Or the belly rising and falling. Resting here in this moment, this breath. And now, coming into a lake meditation. And picturing a lake. Maybe it's a lake you've been to and know well. Or maybe it's a lake you can only imagine. Either is absolutely fine. And letting yourself bring that lake into your mind's eye. Seeing the lake and noticing how it is held by the earth. And as you bring your attention to the lake, notice how it's always changing. And at the same time, it's always the same. It is always itself. Noticing how it changes as the sun moves across it throughout the day. And notice how the light is reflected differently at different times of the day. And noticing how it changes with the weather. How the weather affects the surface of the lake. allowing yourself to see this lake in the surface. Perhaps on this day it's calm, like glass. It reflects everything that comes across it: the sun, birds, the trees surrounding it, bending over it, your own reflection as you look deep in it. And at night, how it reflects even the moon and stars. Letting yourself just be here by this lake, watching it as it changes from morning to night. Notice sometimes a gentle wind comes by and makes the light sparkle off the lake in different patterns. And notice the times where there are storms and the lake becomes very turbulent and rough, making it difficult to reflect, and it is more blurred. And just as the weather affects the lake, so do the seasons. In winter, the lake is frozen oftentimes, sometimes just at the surface, sometimes surrounding it and deeper down. Making it hard to see the life that's deeper in the lake. And in spring, the lake begins to thaw. It melts and flows. And again, the surface reflects the birds and the budding of the trees around the edges. And summer comes, and there is the return of warmth, calling deeper into the lake for the life below to come to the surface. And again, summer fades and fall arrives. The lake welcomes all the seasons. It welcomes the leaves that float across the surface, reflecting their true colors that had been hidden in summer by their coat of green. Reflecting that the lake is always changing throughout the seasons, and it is always itself. And now seeing if you can allow your body to become the lake. Feeling held and embraced by the earth as the lake is. having a sense of the whole lake at the surface of the skin and deep within the body. Experience the fullness of your being as you rest here, as the lake rests in the earth. And noticing deeper in the sensations in your body, how they come, stay a while, and pass away. And noticing how the mind is like the surface of the lake. It reflects what comes and goes. At times, our minds are still, and other times turbulent. And knowing that we can always drop below the surface of the lake to a place of stillness deep within us, a place of calm. And as you sit here, sensing into this place deep within you, allowing your breath to take you to this place, in this moment, resting here, whole. And as you sit here, I will read this poem by Wendell Berry called The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's life may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in its beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Okay. So I thought what I would do is really a short share, but it's about some practices that I have learned over the years and some I've learned recently that have been really helpful during these challenging times. And the first one I call coming into presence. And it has 3 steps. And the first step is to take a breath. So let's just take a breath together. And then let that go. And let's take 2 more breaths. Breathing in. Letting that go. And another breath. Breathing in. And letting that go. So the second step is to notice your feet on the floor. So our feet are part of our body that don't hold anxiety. So they're always a great resource to come to if we feel anxious. So let's just start by noticing our feet touching the floor, how the earth supports us. See if you can notice points of contact and pressure. Just grounding here in this moment in your feet. And the third step is repeat. So a teacher at Brown, Willoughby Britton, says, short moments of awareness, repeat many times. So it really is helpful during the day to take, that didn't take a minute probably, to take a breath. And if you have time, take 3 breaths. And notice your feet. And so throughout the day, practice short moments of awareness many times. Okay. That's the first practice. I actually have 5. So the second one is the acronym STOP. And some of you already may know this if you've taken the mindfulness-based stress reduction class, but the first part of it is S stands for stop. And T stands for take a breath. So let's take another breath. And then observe what thoughts might be going through your mind, what emotions, and what are you noticing in your body. And then P stands for proceed. Just like you would at a stop sign. Stop, take a breath, look around, observe, and then proceed. So there's another practice that's, we're reminded of it frequently if we drive our car around town. So the third practice is from Judson Brewer at Brown too, and it's called Changing a Habit. And I love how it explains what's happening with all the news and opportunities to go on the internet and read. And what he calls that is social contagion. So while we have to have physical contact with the virus to get it, we can read the news from around the world and be anxious. So what he says is the coronavirus plus uncertainty, which there's a lot of uncertainty around it, leads to anxiety. And then anxiety plus social contagion, all the news and ways we can read about what's going on and trying to figure out what happens, leads to heightened anxiety and can even lead to panic. And so he offers a couple of practices to help with that. One is to make a decision how many times you're going to check your mail, your email, or the internet, or read the news, or listen to the news. Forgot about the TV. How many times a day? And he suggests, how about 2 times, at the most 3? And that's the first step. The second step is to change the pattern. So if you're in the habit of getting up and cutting on your computer and start scanning for the internet for what's happening, to change it up. Do that at a different time of day. And that's about changing a pattern, changing a habit. And if those prove to be challenging, The third step is to ask yourself, when you catch yourself or see yourself, or you're mindful that you're on the internet again, or watching the news again, or talking to your neighbor at 10 feet about what's happening, is ask this question: what do you get out of it? And how long does it last? Just notice. It's a mindfulness practice. And begin to notice, what do you get out of it? Notice what that feels like in the body. And so those are the steps to changing a habit. So the fourth practice I wanted to offer is about connection and belonging. And this is a hard time, whether you have a lot of people in the house or no one's in the house, of social distancing and sheltering in place. So if you do have children or a partner or a spouse at home, stopping and asking them, how are you doing? How are you really doing? And listen. And give them a hug. And then if you don't have any other people in your home, maybe you have a pet. So they're always wonderful resources for a hug. And pick them up and be with them and rub them and see what happens. But some people don't have a pet either. And the next practice is to go outside and look at the sky and the clouds crossing the sky, and feel the breeze on your skin and the birds singing. And I'm reminded of the words of Mary Oliver from the poem Wild Geese. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. And the last practice that I wanted to offer is on kindness and compassion. So I remember when I heard a teacher say, in all Asian languages, the word for mind and heart are the same. So when you hear the word mindfulness, you hear the word heartfulness. And I have had moments of saying, how would we ever be mindful of our lives and our children's lives and our loved ones' lives and the world and others without compassion? I just think it would be too hard. And so practicing compassion and kindness towards yourself and others. So I have a little story, and I just read it on Monday. So I get the newsletter from the high school I went to, and it had a story about a graduating senior who was written up in the Miami Herald. And he was going around into different neighborhoods and playing the violin. He played the violin since he was young. And it had a link to click on the video. So I clicked on it, and it was so beautiful. People started making a space for him in the street with duct tape, and he was standing in the middle, and people were coming out of their houses and listening to him play. And it was the days he was outside, of course, were beautiful. And as I listened, I was struck by the kindness and compassion that I felt. No words, just him playing the violin. So, and that made me also stop and think, what are my ways that I can offer kindness and compassion to myself and others during this time? So I'd like to end with another poem by a woman named Kitty O'Meara. And she writes, And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows. And the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. So I appreciate you being with us today here, and Lindsay will be back next week. And let's close with the sound of the bell. Be safe and be well. Thank you.